Everything Old is New Again, America's entertainment pop culture talk show.
It may well possess a rudimentary intelligence.
I'm trying to think, but nothing happens.
Felt a great disturbance in the force.
Hello, I'm Mr. Red.
Come on, bark like a dog for me.
Where's the goodies? Leave the gun. Take the cannoli.
I bet you wouldn't have done anything like this if Mom and Dad were here.
You filthy criminal.
Excuse me while I whip this out.
Go ahead. Make my day.
Here are your hosts, Douglas Viviani and David Cohen.
Cobra Kai is back where it belongs. Back on top. But the real story's only just begun.
Thought you were dead.
Cobra Kai never dies. The fight is only over when you say it is.
We need to talk about what you've been putting in my kids' heads.
Same lessons I taught you. Strike first. Strike hard.
No mercy.
Aha, here we are. Everything old is new again. It's going to have no mercy on you this week. I'll tell you that. We're excited here at the show because we have a special guest this week. Unfortunately, David Cohen is out of commission, but we have someone that's going to take up the slack and be our co-host for the week, and I'm telling you, this is exciting. First, before I do that, I also have Angelica Viviani here for a reason. We'll see why in a few minutes. Angelica, say hello.
Hi, everyone.
Nice and loud into the microphone, 11-year-old. Okay, now, we have a special guest or two besides Angelica that are joining us this week and going to really have some fun talking about the hit new TV show, and it's really not new because it's from 2017. We'll get into that. Cobra Kai, and I'll tell you, back in 2019, show number 274 of Everything Old is New Again, we predicted and loved this show and said how wonderful it was and tried to get people to listen, and I would say in no small part to our next guest, this show is a huge success and made us look good. Netflix bought the show after 2 seasons, and now everyone can see all of the 3 seasons of Cobra Kai. I would happy to have us join us with Martin Kove Sensei Kreese himself. Martin, thank you very much for joining us. Everything Old is New Again. Please have no mercy on us because it's time for Everything Old is New Again to earn our black belt in radio fun. So welcome to Everything Old is New Again.
No, thank you very much. Thank you.
That's great to have you. Now, listen, right off the bat, let's cut to the chase. We just heard a clip there of Kreese and his teachings in Cobra Kai. The question is, let's put it this way. Cobra Kai teaches karate to be more or less of an offensive sport, and Miyagi-Do, the nemesis, if you will, of Cobra Kai, to teach karate as a defense-first type of art. Which do you think personally is correct, and or the correct, what would you say, view and aspect of karate and teaching and learning karate?
Well, traditional karate is basically, it's used as for defense.
Okay, now this show, features karate, of course, from the Karate Kid, and now 34 years later, and you're performing karate, and there is a lesson to be learned and set out, I would say, on stage, as to maybe even a life lesson that we should or should not have mercy, that we should be, what would you say, offensive with our attitude towards others, or versus defensive and so forth. Do you find any interest in the script in that regard, in terms of the lessons behind the kind of scenes and things that you're being put into, the various scenes and controversies you're being put into in this show?
What do you mean, the credibility of, offensive sport versus defensive art? I mean, karate is basically used to be for a defense, to make sure you don't get into trouble, but you need to have a great knowledge of that. So the contradiction, well, it's not really a contradiction. The competition between the two of us is basically one is more aggressive, and what's more aggressive for me is certainly, Cobra Kai. And Cobra Kai, it's a thought. It's a concept that was created by John Kreese back, when he experienced his flashback in season 3 with No Mercy. The problem is when you show mercy, you don't know what you're going to get. You don't know if you're just like Miguel was hurt, he showed mercy. You know, you don't know what you're going to get. And Cobra Kai feels that when you finish someone, they shouldn't get up. Now, Miyagi-Do doesn't feel that way. They feel that when you get the point in the tournament or in life, when you win an argument, it's enough. And, you know, Cobra Kai...
It's very interesting. Yeah, it's very interesting because Cobra Kai and Kreese's attitude try, I would suggest, to make life more or less black and white. You know, I win, you lose kind of thing. And we all, I would suggest, find and see in the writing of Cobra Kai that life is more or less gray. You know, we're not always right, we're not always wrong, and everyone has a motivation for what they're doing. It doesn't feel that they're the bad guy, let's say. Does that make sense? And is that something that you find reflected in this show?
Well, you mean where it doesn't, where Cobra Kai, no, you're not the bad guy. You know, I don't think of my character as a bad guy. I think of my character as somewhat misunderstood because of what he's trying to accomplish. You know, he feels that it's sort of, society right now is soft. Society right now is a butterfly society. You know, kids are getting trophies for participation. You know, he doesn't feel that that is productive. He doesn't feel that's the way children should be brought up. You know, you'd make a great effort to accomplish something and win, and therefore receive a trophy. Therefore, receive something to show your prowess. You know, and that's basically the difference. I don't really think that one is good and one is bad. And I think he says that in one of the episodes. He addresses the class, and he says there is no good, there is no bad. There's only, strong. There's only weak and strong. And basically, that's what society is. You know, that's how I think John Kreese really feels. And I don't think it's evil. It certainly isn't evil. It's just the other end of the spectrum when you feel that, everything is okay for you and you could putter through life and be bullied. And, he just believes that you have to do something about that. You must react. Otherwise, you'll be taken advantage of throughout your life.
And I think that's a great topic and aspects of the show that's able to, it's not just looking at karate and so forth and these characters continuing the same story they did 34 years ago. We've got children involved, learning lessons. We've got, the struggle between different attitudes of how to deal with life, if you will, as you just explained. I think it's great. Now, in some way, this, you're probably aware, has caught on with a whole new generation. Like Angelica, who's here. And Angelica, in your school, from what I understand, this show is a craze. It's a 6th grade, right? And first of all, is that correct?
Yes.
and why do you think it's so popular with everyone? And even more than that, do you have a question for Sensei Kreese or Martin Kove right here?
Well, I think that it's, really popular because of the storyline. I think the storyline and the characters that are in it is very well, made. And I think that's what people like. They want to see, a good story and a good lesson, too, because usually, they have, lessons, in the Cobra Kai TV show. So I think that's why a lot of people in my school like it. And I do have one question. What is your favorite part of working on the Karate Kid / Cobra Kai franchise, and why?
You mean my favorite part on the series or in the movie? Or all together? What exactly?
All together.
I think probably my favorite role, my favorite part is the fact that they show this character now as vulnerable at times. And they give you a reason why he is as tough as he is, why he believes in mercy for the weak, and the fact that they went to his background and showed what happened to his girlfriend and what happened to him in Vietnam. That's what I like the best, the diversification of the character, which means when they get a chance to show his background and why he is the way he is,
I think
Karate Kid.
Yeah, I think they did a great job with that, going into that, explaining, because, as you said before, and we'll explore this a little bit more when we get back here on the commercial break on Everything Old is New Again, is that it's so interesting that we are who we are for a reason. It's just, and in a movie, you don't get a chance to really explain and explore why this, quote, villain is a villain, and why he doesn't feel he's a villain, and why he feels what he's doing is the right thing to do. I think it's so interesting and so great that this show is able now to be able to explore all of that, and we'll explore all of this and more on Everything Old is New Again when we come back from this commercial break with Martin Kove himself. We'll be back right at this and Everything Old is New Again.
Sweep the leg. You have a problem with that? No, Sensei. No mercy.
Mr. Miyagi, it's over. It's over. Forget about it. No. I'm afraid. Just get out of here. I want to go home.
Cannot, must not. It's okay, lose to opponent. Must not lose to fear.
Yo, I'm afraid. I'm afraid of him, all right? What do I do?
You stay focused. Tell us how your best karate still inside you. Now time, let out.
You know, it's a shame what happened at the school. But I don't really blame Robbie. Because you know what they say. There's no such thing as a bad student. It must really hurt to see the Miyagi name dragged through the mud. Wish I could see the look on the little's face.
That little kicked you more than once. You're lucky he taught me true karate. That's why I'm not gonna fight you.
Oh, but you will. It's inevitable.
Yeah, we go. It's inevitable here. We're having some fun talking Karate Kid, talking Cobra Kai with Sensei Kreese himself, Martin Kove, on Everything Old is New Again. I'll tell you, that those clips kind of bring to light a little bit to me the great discussion that this show has about life and about dealing with it, with fear, without fear. To me, the last time that your character, Martin, had or was afraid would have been in Vietnam, and we saw that, as we talked about a little bit in the last section, how Kreese himself was able to kind of overcome that fear in Vietnam, and what he did to do so, and certainly how that shaped his life. Did you expect that kind of retrospective when you took the role the second time around here for the TV show? Did you think these writers were going to explore this? I'm sure you're happy they did, but did you think when you took the role on they were going to do that?
Well, initially when we first met, I wanted to basically... I would only take the role if we could go back into his background. If we can create, and I said to him, I'm really interested in going back in history with this character and find out some vulnerability. Because, as you said, the movies were white hats and black hats. They just, John Kreese is just evil and a bad guy, and you never saw any other growth. You never saw any other colors. There was no other texture for this guy. And I wanted to do the series because I really liked these characters, and the writers were really smart, and they had great imagination, and they were big fans of the show. So that's why Billy, Ralph, and I signed on, because they were like Star Wars fans. They knew everything. It's like you. You know everything about old TV, old radio. You're a buff. Well, these cats were buffs on Karate Kid. So they sold us with the amount of passion they had to recreate the story, but I wanted it to have layers, and I wanted it to have texture, and I wanted them to go back into the past. And they had already done that. They had already conceived the character to be that way, to go back in Vietnam. And we're talking 2 years ago. They had already conceived this, and I said, wow. I said, okay. And I originally was told at the very beginning, you'll come in on season 1, episode 10, and you'll set up the rest of the season 2. I said, well, why can't I come in episode spot of season 1. And they said, no, you're going to set up season 2 by your entrance. And I said, well, all right, okay. And, I had to bite the bullet. The show aired. I couldn't talk about it for 6 months. And then all of a sudden, I show up in episode 10 and boom, they were right. Their perception was so strong that it sold the show, and everybody couldn't wait for season 2 because Kreese, who they thought was dead for 30 years, is now the real story's only just begun.
Exactly. And they really had it laid out right. They sort of, thought this through, as you could see, and the writing is amazing on this show. And I just want to pivot a little bit here, because your examination of your character and your development of this character, in some ways, to me, and I know you're a big Western fan, in some ways to me it kind of reflects a little bit of the good, bad, and the ugly, that movie, and Eli Wallach, and I don't know, I know you're a big Western fan, did your experience and love for those kind of movies bring anything to the plate for you when you developed this character, Kreese, either in the beginning or now?
You hit a good note here. I live for the rejuvenation of the Western. For me, if I get on the cover of Time magazine, the actor who rejuvenated the Western, I can pass on and leave a legacy. I don't have to do anything for the rest of my career.
Right. That's
how strong I feel about that genre returning and the kids being starved for what you and I were very lucky to experience.
Right.
The Good, the Bad, the Ugly comes, top 5. The Wild Bunch, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, Red River, The Searchers, Butch Cassidy. These are just Tombstone. These are just classic movies that I don't think kids really, got a chance, your 11-year-old there to really appreciate. And you and I grew up with that. And the values of that are exactly what John Kreese's values are. He's tough, he's hard, he's cold, but he is a patriot. He is John Wayne in Red River. He is John Wayne in The Searchers. More of The Searchers, I think.
Right.
And, he's prejudiced. There's no question about it. But, John Wayne was prejudiced in The Searchers and, still saved Natalie Wood at the end,
right.
And he did what was right at the end. And basically, John Kreese is the same way.
Well, it also
right
makes
now,
us
probably.
human, right? We know that we are not just one thing. We are many things, and many things motivate us. And I think that's what's great about it. In some ways, in a little bit, I don't know if you've seen The Mandalorian, but to me, The Mandalorian is a Western in outer space. And I'm wondering if that takes us a smidge of a step forward to a Western revival, if that's even possible.
Well, it's definitely a Western. I mean, for sure. And Jon Favreau, loves Westerns. When he did Cowboys and Aliens, I think basically his hands were tied with a lot more alien work than he wanted to do. He's a terrific filmmaker. And, Mandalorian, I mean, the first season of Mandalorian, I remember there was episodes, they were duplicating the Magnificent Seven,
Right.
They were coming into a village and kicking some ass and blah, blah, blah. And, and I don't remember which episode, but I'm looking at this with my son, and we're laughing and we're saying, wow, there's Tuco, there's Angel Eyes, but it's all the Mandalorian. He sort of encompasses, Clint's part of Angel Eyes, but God knows how many different times we've seen pieces come out where they're just, copying some of these great Westerns because they are the heritage of American cinema, and they just are.
Absolutely.
I mean, those movies, 1906, the great, the Great Western Train Robbery, a 6-8 minute movie. But what was interesting about those days was when they made these silent movies, that the people were still alive who they would have, things about Dodge and Tombstone and all that. These silent movies made in 1908, 1910, 1912. The same people that they were depicting were still alive, like Wyatt Earp, like some of the people in the cow towns. They were still living in these little towns. And all of a sudden, there were now movie theaters, and the people would go to see movie theaters, and boom, it was a silent version of their life from 20 years ago,
Yeah, amazing. The history of it is amazing. The panache of let's say the early entrepreneur and the Wild West, where you're trying to create justice where there isn't any, and even they've got the gunfights in The Mandalorian too. So that's great. Just going to pass off the mic for Angelica just for a second before we take a break here. Jell, I know you have another question.
Have you ever studied karate in real life, and do you recommend it to other people, and why?
Oh, of course. We began, I guess, our intro. There was a movie called The Lion of Ireland, which was the story of Brian Boru, the first king of Ireland, back in the year 1080. And he was the first king of Ireland that unified the tribes against the Vikings. And the Vikings would raid the coastline all the time. And this goes back to about 1080. And we were going to make a movie about that based on a book called The Lion of Ireland by Morgan Llewellyn. And we were learning all forms of kendo. I mean, it was sort of like, there was a lot of the Conan style, where everybody was using a katana. Everybody was sort of bastardizing the style into a period of time where in Conan it was another era, but our era was basically 1080, almost 1100. And we were using all plywood axes and cutout axes, so it looked like axes of the time. And we would use a variety of katanas, swords. And we learned a lot of kendo. Oh, but first we had to learn the basics of karate. And you learn the foundation, and then you just go into kendo, which is usually not done for a while, but for the sake of Hollywood movies, we moved faster than normal. And I think kids it's the best. It's the greatest discipline. I had my children do it. And learning karate is wonderful for your sense of discipline in regard to everything else in your life. It's just miraculous what it does for you. It gives you a sense of who you are. It gives you a sense of integrity. It gives you a sense of accomplishment, because it's not easy to learn, the katas, the various different katas that you have to entertain in class, in the dojo. It's not easy, but you feel great once you accomplish it, because it's mental and it's physical. That's the value of it. Whether you're a John Kreese fan or a Miyagi-Do fan, it's really, karate is magnificent to master. Just magnificent.
Not a worse or better way to end this section right here, as I agree 100%. And I see it a little bit on Main Street, so to speak, USA, taking a little bit more interest, or people taking a little bit more interest with Cobra Kai being on the air and being so successful and so popular. So that's another great advantage to watch and enjoy this show, is to get maybe involved in some karate, because it really is worthwhile. We've seen that personally as well. We'll be back right after this, and Everything Old is New again with Martin Kove, Cobra Kai, and more right after this.
Tonight it's very clear, as we're above the line here.
Here on the street, in competition, a man confronts you. He's the enemy. An enemy deserves no mercy. What is the problem, Mr. Lawrence?
No more fighting.
This is a karate dojo, not a knitting class. You don't come in my dojo and drop a challenge and leave, old man. All right. No one touches the prima donna until the tournament. Is that understood? Yes, Sensei! But you don't show. And it's open season on him and you.
This is going to be so much fun. I hear the sensei's a really good guy.
Love exists in this dojo, doesn't it?
Yes, Master.
Kindness exists in this dojo, doesn't it?
Yes, Master.
Everyone is a special winner in this dojo, aren't they?
Yes, Master.
What do we study here?
Hug first, hug hard, show mercy.
Hey, you're the best around. Nothing's going to ever keep you down.
We're back here on Everything Old is New again with Martin Kove, and Angelica Viviani's joining us, and Martin, of course, is right there at the forefront here in 2017 on the Goldbergs, reestablishing before Cobra Kai's appearance, John Kreese, and I'm just wondering how much fun was that to do the Goldbergs, show another side, to try to goof a little bit about this. And when you did that, did you know that Cobra Kai was on the horizon?
Let me think about that. That's an interesting question. Did I know it was on the horizon? Yeah. They had already started, and I hadn't done it yet. I don't think I had done. Let me think. That was the following year. Yeah, I knew. The first year was in the can. So that was 2017. No, it actually, they were talking about it, and they were about to shoot something, and they hadn't put anything in the can yet. And it was just still basically the Karate Kid. That show was based on the Karate Kid, not on Cobra Kai.
Right.
And I believe that the producer was just one big fan, and I went to his office, and he had every bit of memorabilia imaginable from every show in the 80s, every show imaginable in the 80s. Shows that were canceled and shows that were not. And he was from television to movies, and he was truly an 80s buff. So he knew everything, and I had a lot of fun doing that show. Unfortunately, I had a lot more scenes, and they were cut because that show was so popular that at the end, when I had a lot more to do there, they put on 4 or 5 different promos for new shows.
Right.
So the Goldbergs was so popular that everybody watched it. It was the ideal place to put a promo for a show that no one knew about. So the final 10 minutes when I had all this work I had perfected, it was gone.
It's tough, man. It was just a great appearance, though. Even because we didn't see what you were missing or what we're missing, so we sort of don't miss it, if that makes sense. I'd love to see it. And YouTube and all that, sooner or later that'll leak out as a blooper or something, and we'll be able to see those. But what a shame, because what did you do? You have more of a story there than the last scene, I guess is what you're saying.
Oh yeah. There was a lot more stuff in the dojo and playing and singing and doing all kinds of stuff, because he was, he was a silly character.
Right.
I think it was Sensei John. Sensei John was just such a lovely man,
right.
And it was just, there was not a color of the original John Kreese in there. And I think I'm in a red gi, I think, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And the cast was a great cast. They're still running, I think.
Yeah. It was timely too. It was so great to see you. And then don't remember the time frame from this side of it, but at some point thereafter we heard about the beginnings of Cobra Kai, I think, and it just all came together. It was fortuitous, and sometimes things are in the stars. They're ready to roll, and you don't realize why you're doing things, and it turns out there's a meaning afterwards. Angelica, one more question. Let's hear what you have to say.
Hi, okay, so why do you like acting? What brings you the most joy in acting?
Why do I like acting, and what was the second part?
What brings you the most joy in acting?
I enjoy acting. I've always enjoyed acting since the 4th grade, I believe, because I was a fantasist, and I loved, playing with soldiers and watching films, and I liked fantasy a lot. And I was brought up in Brooklyn, and I was the only child, and I had a very rich fantasy life. And I just love watching films, and even as a 5-year-old. And then eventually it became interesting to do plays, and in New York we did a lot of plays, and then went out to California, and you got a chance to do some of the bigger events theatrically, bigger movies and action movies and things like that. But for me, I think why I love it so much is to do a good play is probably the most. If I had the time and the energy right now, I'd really, do something very rich. The Lion in Winter, which was a fantastic movie with Peter O'Toole and a wonderful play. I mean, I do some of these pieces now that I'm older, so I could do. But I would love to do a play because it takes you such a great sense of accomplishment. And doing a play is a lot harder than doing a movie. And you have to really stay in your character. There aren't any additional takes. You have to stay in your character from beginning to end for hours at a time. And you have to, play moment by moment, and there's no retakes. So it's very exciting to contemplate that. And that's what excites me the most about acting, is it takes you far away from your life into the life of some fantasy character. And I enjoy it very much. And, and I enjoy making people laugh. I don't get a chance to do much comedy. So I enjoy when I get a chance to do comedy, I really enjoy making people laugh. You wouldn't know that by John Kreese, but you know, you never have the opportunity or the luxury to pick and choose what's going to be. All of a sudden, you know, you're going to be noted for John Kreese, and like Joe DiMaggio noted for Mr. Coffee, that he was one of the greatest ball players of the New York Yankees. You know, and people didn't put two and two together. But if you're lucky enough to do what you love, and you make money at it, and you can make a lot of people happy by doing it, then it's the best feeling in the world, and that's why I love acting.
See, and that's some great advice, and I don't know if you realize, well, let's put it this way, you do realize, because your son is an actor, and I'm sure we'll talk about that in the next section, your influence upon his choosing that path. But what I'm, with a father of an 11-year-old and an 8-year-old, I'm seeing a different perspective of the world. When I grew up in the 60s and 70s, kids had the choice of sports, and kind of that's about it. There were some plays, but not a lot. Now kids have karate, kids have theater camps, and an ability to be in theater, not just in school, but in the various theaters all over, and schools all over town. They're all over the place. So I think that it's a great opportunity, like Angelica's been in a number of plays, and I think maybe you can join me on this, I don't know, that even if you're not going to be a superstar, or even known for it, even if just doing and performing in plays at this age and through high school has to have, and maybe you could tell us, some advantage in life, even if you're not going to be doing that as a career. Public speaking, it gives you confidence, maybe. You tell me, what advice, if you will, would you pass along, or did you pass along to your son or to Angelica with respect to the just acting for acting's sake?
Well, it gives you a sense of well-rounding your personality. If you're not going to do it professionally, it could be even more satisfying, because you might take more chances. You play a character and you don't think you should, sing in this role, and you go and you say to the director, "Can I sing this line? Can I sing it like Mickey Mouse? Can I sing it in a really high-pitched voice?" And it gives you a sense of being adventurous. Acting allows you to be adventurous. And whether you're going to be an actor or you're not going to be an actor, the bottom line is it allows you to expand and feel confident, and you can choose things, to do certain things, because no one's going to tell you it's right or wrong, because it's all based on fantasy. It's all based on a play that's not real. It's all based on, if you did a little 6-minute movie, it's all based on fantasy primarily. So you can do what you like. And I think the inside your soul, inside your little heart, to be able to expand yourself and not worry about what parents think, not worry about what your friends think, just to expand because you see this character singing in a high-pitched voice, and you make that decision and you go for it. And all of a sudden, everybody thinks it's a brilliant decision. That makes you feel so good, even if you're going to become an accountant, because it allows you the confidence that you made a decision, you went for it, and it worked.
Well, great advice. So
it doesn't mean you have to be an actor, but it means that your decision-making process, in your heart, your courage is what will help you succeed in later life.
Right, and taking that chance is and can be rewarding unto itself as well. Angel, does that make sense?
Yes.
All right, there we go. All right, we'll be back right after this. Everything Old is New again for another surprise guest here on our show, talking about Cobra Kai, acting, and more with Sensei Kreese himself, Martin Kove. We'll be back right after this. Everything Old is New again.
You're listening to Everything Old is New Again, America's entertainment pop culture talk show with Douglas Viviani and David Cohen.
What are you looking at, loser?
Sorry. He's the one whose mom killed herself.
Explains why he's such a freak.
Stop that.
Can it, Betsy? A freak is a freak. If you love him so much, start a circus.
Kreese! The tables are not going to bust themselves. Get back to work.
Sir, life isn't always fair. Sometimes the world can be cruel. And that's why you have to learn to be cruel yourself.
We're back here on Everything Old is New Again. That's a little bit of a flashback from Cobra Kai. We're flashing back here a little bit, too, looking at Kreese, his kind of motivations there. We have Martin Kove himself on the show, and we also have that rascal, let's say, that was that bully that we just heard. That was a flashback. If you've seen Cobra Kai, if you haven't, you've got to get involved with this show. It's on Netflix. It's amazing. 3 seasons are already in the can. There's a 4th season that's been ordered. Lessons and fun for old and young. It's a perfect Everything Old is New Again show, bringing back the Karate Kid and more. There's so much more to this show. And we now have that actor himself that performed in the flashback as the bully to Kreese to help kind of, what would you say, develop the personality that we know as Sensei Kreese. Jesse Kove, Jesse, thank you very much for joining us on Everything Old is New Again.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's so awesome to be here.
And I've seen interviews with you elsewhere, and you're very amicable and totally and completely different, I think, than the character you played on Cobra Kai. So let's dive right into it. I mean, that was a bully. That was a gentleman that, was a turning point for your dad's character before your dad was, Kreese, if that makes sense, time traveling here. How was it to be able to kind of stretch from your real personality to that personality, and then sort of with Dad, I know was looking at the diner once in a while, looking over the camera's shoulder there, watching you act. This had to be some heck of an experience.
That was incredible. I mean, I think playing villains or bad guys or bullies, it runs in the family. So it wasn't terribly challenging, but it definitely was an incredible experience. I mean, when the opportunity first came up, I was thrilled. Of course, my dad, he really wanted me to book the part, and the producers wanted me to audition for this role, and we were very excited. And I went in, and funny enough, when I was in the audition room, I asked the casting director, I said, how bad do you want this guy to be? Like, do you really want him to be just a horrible, bully? And she goes, I want you to really give it, make him the worst. So I just made him who you saw. And that's what won the part. And so, when we were working that day, it was just so great to see my dad there. He walked in on set earlier that morning, and it was just like this surreal experience. It wasn't real in that, but it was real at the same time. Here I am, being involved in the Karate Kid universe, which I never thought would happen. And it was like this great part of for me, it was like a personal legacy fulfillment, which I was so happy about.
Yeah, it's in an odd way to look at it, in a very awkward, odd way. You are now can say that you're responsible for your dad's experience, your dad's success in Cobra Kai anyway, or in the Karate Kid, in that you helped to create Sensei Kreese's character. I know that sounds bizarre, but that goes round and round. The point, the point is that it really was. I never, it was released a little ways back that you were related. I never knew that, but that flashback was so important to the development of that character. So even though, it was a small time on stage, so to speak, on screen, it lasts through the series from this point on, and that had to be something that was fun. Now, here's the thing: that wasn't the first thing that you've done. Certainly, you've been in some Lifetime movies, Christmas on the Menu just this past year, and others, and I'm sure you have others upcoming. The question is, with respect to acting, how did Dad take to the fact that you apparently wanted to become an actor? I know later on you did VFW and another short called Show No Mercy with Dad. So it sounds like he had some support and does support your career. But what was it like when you were younger? Did he sort of support it? How did it develop in your mind that you wanted to also join this profession?
Well, I appreciate what you said. It's funny from growing up on movie sets, from a young age, my parents never really pushed me to be in the industry, which I respected because it's such a it's such an it can be a very unforgiving industry, and also very fruitful one at the same time. But when I was I was always in my younger years, I was in like the class, the acting classes, and the theater classes in high school, and doing plays, and I went to like film school. And so when I was about 18, I really wanted to pursue this professionally, and I got an agent, and just started going out, and that's where it all started. And of course, my dad was very supportive, and we love to help each other out and bring each other, if we can, into certain projects that we were having fun with. And there was a movie, one of my favorites that this happened. This example that I used was a movie I did called D-Day, Battle of Omaha Beach, which was all about the boys going in, the First Army Rangers going in on D-Day. And I was there on set one day, and my dad was visiting me, and I said to the writer, I was like, man, can't we just like put my dad in here somewhere? Like, let's just put him on the beach, let him get shot. He'll have a great time. He'll love it. And they said, would he do that? And I said, yeah, of course. And so they wrote this beautiful scene with he and I, and he came on for the day, and he played this like French rebel, and he loved it. I think it was my dad's first World War II movie. Of like the 300 movies that he's done, right. I was able to bring him on to like his first World War II film, and it was a scene with me, which was so fantastic. He has like he's a French rebel. He's like shot, and he has a cigar, and like I help him light his cigar, and we have this conversation about finding the Nazis. It was great. It's just like being able to do fun things like that with each other, which is just it's a beautiful thing we get to do for each other.
And that's what's great about acting, and great about, in some ways, about what Everything Old is New Again. On our view, is that there's so many things in the world that can, just say, foster relationships between people if you have an open mind to looking at the past and looking people from the past and things from the past and seeing that it is the foundation for where we are today. And certainly our parents fall into that mode, if you will. And I think it's wonderful. But I have a question. You had Dad, who unfortunately in the world, sometimes people, we've talked about, look at a character and think that the actor is that character. So when Dad showed up to your play in high school or what have you, or to the ice cream parlor afterwards, did sort of his persona carry? Were people sort of afraid to approach you, or are people a little more sharp than that these days?
It's funny. People would always ask me, like growing up, like, "Oh, is your dad as mean as he is on in the movies?" Right. And I'm like, no, like,
right, exactly.
He's playing a character. I mean, yeah, maybe like when he stubs his toe or something, like like John Kreese comes out a little bit,
right.
Or if he's upset at something or whatever. But like for the most part, like my dad's a great guy. He's an animal lover and a nature lover, and it's funny to hear that from people, but I think that leaves like a mark with people, because he played such a good bad guy that people just don't forget it, and they almost think that that's really who he is. It's so good that he's got to be that way in real life.
Tell you what I do know, and guess what? That is an interesting perspective on Cobra Kai, Martin Kove, Jesse Kove. We're going to take a break here for the week. We'll come back next week on Everything Old is New Again and continue talking with Jesse and Martin Kove about Cobra Kai and more. And we're just going to have a blast here again, as we're doing on Everything Old is New Again. If you're looking to find other episodes of Everything Old is New Again that you may have missed, feel free to go to our website at everythingoldisnewagain.biz. That's everythingoldisnewagain.biz, and you'll definitely see all of our old shows there. Just click on one of like 400, and you'll get a kick. We're going to have a great time coming back on Everything Old is New Again, talking to Martin Kove, Jesse Kove next week. Tune in, same bad time, same bad station. We'll be back. America's Entertainment Pop Culture Talk Show.
Hey, Doug, it seems like we've done so many shows. What is the actual count?
We're at 214 and counting, increasing every week.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yes.
All right, so let's say that I'm a listener, I'm a fan of the show, and I've missed the last 213 shows, right? Where can I go to hear this stuff?
It's a great question. We have a channel on YouTube. So just go to Everything Old is New Again Radio. Look that up on YouTube. Just throw it into the search engine. You will see us come up, and you will see all of those shows listed on YouTube. You can listen anytime.
Now, what if I wanted to find you somewhere else, like on Facebook?
Yeah, we're on Facebook. Yeah, absolutely. Facebook also. Just go Everything Old is New Again in the search. You will find us. And we post shows all the time. In fact, every Friday at 5 Eastern Standard Time, we post an old show so you can listen to it on the way home from work.
Wow. That's cool. That's new, right?
It sure is. I would suggest you do that. Everything Old is New Again. Enjoy. And you can find us on the web at everythingoldisnewagain.biz. These days, the news is full of teen suicide, drug and alcohol abuse, bullying. It's depressing and concerning, but there is hope. WWE Intercontinental Champion Mark Merrow.
Champion Choice is a live presentation that empowers students to make positive choices and live their best life. I teach students how to live a drug-free life, prevent bullying, avoid peer pressure, and keep negative people out of their lives. We are defined by our choices. There is hope.
To schedule a Champion of Choices presentation for your school or organization, visit thinkpaz.org. That's thinkpaz.org. You've been listening to Everything Old is New Again, America's pop culture entertainment talk show. Find us on the web at everythingoldisnewagain.biz. That's .biz.
See you next week. Same bat time, same bat station.